You are live. So, I don't need it. So we learn in Rambam and his legacy. His legacy is very big, and we're using two main books, two main sources. The 13 Principles is written in his commentary on Mishnah, Sanhedrin, but also the topic that we are going to discuss today is the topic of prophecy, and he talks very briefly here about prophecy, but in other place in the book of Mishneh Torah, his law codex that he written, he talks a lot more. So first we going to read it here. So we repeat first five Yesodot principles that we believe that the God exists, and Rambam explains what is God is the reason that the world is exists, and the second that the God there is only one God and He is united, Yichud, and the third is Eino Guf, that God doesn't have a physical body, He's not physical object. Fourth, Shaboreit Barach Hu Rishon V'Achron. It means that the world that existed, it exists only because because of God, and it means that the world have a point of starting, and God is not like it. He doesn't have a point of starting, so He is endless, and it means in one word, Kadmon. So the God existed forever; it's existing every time, but the world is not existing forever. So it makes this hierarchy, God above the world. This is 4. 5, we learned it in previous time about service, that we need to serve God and not serve anyone else, because only God is the reason for everything that is happening. And for example, angels or planets, stars, they're not affecting by themselves. They could affect like a shliach. Uh, God made the sun shine, so sun shines, but it doesn't make sense to serve for the sun in order that it shine more or less, because sun doesn't shine because the sun wants to shine. The sun shines because God built it in this way, and God wants that it will shine at specific amount at any specific time. So we serve in only God and not anyone else. So basically, we are moving from the description of the God towards the behavior, how God behaves with the person, with people. How could we build our relationship with God? So the first is the service. And now we're moving to the topic of prophecy, and later we will move to the topic of Torah, because Torah we received with the help of prophecy. Without it, we could not receive Torah. So it's interesting to understand what it is, the prophecy. So in Siddur, the poet write it very short. אני מאמין באמונה שלמה שכל דברי נביאים אמת. I believe that every words of prophets are true, but it's not what Rambam written. So we will read first from his commentary to Mishnah. היסוד התשיעי. It's here. תשיעי.
What about prophet?
Prophet.
Essentially,
This is our topic for
it's a
today.
Greek word,
The word prophet.
and
I'm translating
I'm
from
not
Hebrew.
so sure
Nevoah.
about the meaning.
We will discuss it today.
The one pro is before,
And
and for me is speak. But
So
Before,
it's someone that
it
is.
can be a special or temporary.
Mhm.
Does he speak before people telling someone?
Yes, we will
Or
also
does he
discuss it. Mhm.
speak before something happens,
Oh,
looking into future things?
yeah, both
So,
are true.
if it's a Greek word, certainly Rambam did not use the Greek word. So, what are the associations with the original Hebrew?
Yeah, this is a good question. Actually, he wrote the commentary on Mishnah in Arabic language, but I don't have it since I don't know Arabic. We're using translation to Hebrew. But Mishneh Torah, his Codex of Law, he wrote in Hebrew. So it's a good question. I don't have this book. Maybe we can look for it in internet later. So I will read first what he writes in Mishnah in his commentary. Ayesod Shishi, sixth principle, Hanevoah, prophecy, Vehu, and what it is. Shida Adam. We need to understand שזה מן האדם יימצא בהם בעלים טבעיים ומידות מעולות מאוד. That from our amongst the people, among our people, sometimes there is some special one with good traits of his soul, ushlemut gdala, and he doesn't have flaws. He's very whole. The person without the flaws, ונפשותיהן נכונות, and his soul is ready, purified maybe, עד שהן מקבלות צורת השכל, and their mind is clear. אחר כך ידבק אותו השכל האנושי בשכל הפועל ונאצל ממנו עליו אצילות נכבד. So there is concept about the sechel, intelligence, how we understand it. It's very difficult topic today. So today in the world of nature, we have the brain, the physical object, but also there is a consciousness, which is not a physical object. So this is a very big question in science, from where the consciousness are coming. Is it coming from brain or from other other source? Because I understand, for example, that I am alive and I could think about it. I could ask why am I alive, what I want to do with it. I could reflect, right? But for example, the animals, we think that they are more simple. They have their instincts and they don't have this mind and consciousness like people have, right? How you think?
I think many animals have consciousness, they have joy,
Choice.
fear,
Joy.
and that they plan ahead. There are migrating birds
Mm-hmm.
that go 10,000 kilometers
Mm-hmm.
away from their home. And the next year they come back. To do such a journey, you need a lot of brains
Sure.
and some planning, and of course communication.
Mm-hmm. Communication. This is very important. Communication.
Many words certainly communicate. If you look at storks, if there's a place plentiful of food,
So they made the whistles.
it takes a few hours, and from all over they come.
So they send in signals to
They send
to other
some
birds.
kind of signal,
Mm-hmm.
communicate. The other has the idea. There's plenty of food now. Let's go.
So it's a big philosophical question. What's the difference
Animals
between animal and
are
people?
not stupid.
I didn't say they're stupid. I say they don't have self-consciousness. So they feel that they need to eat, so they starting to eat. They cannot make like people the decision. I will not eat it for some calculations. It's just what I heard from people that own animals. Do you have a pet?
No, yeah, I have a pet. I think I have to confirm because if you look in the story of creation, the animals were made before us in another way than human
The
beings.
technique.
They were. You understand what I mean? That they were done or
Ah,
created
we
in a
can take-
different way.
Mhm.
Die Tiere sind aus dem Wort entstanden und in Adam schon wurde eingehaucht das Leben.
So the Adam have a soul, yes?
Yes, the animals were created by the word, and they were created, and Adam Rishon were like breath in.
Mhm. ויעש השם, ויעש אלוקים את
Is that not what
חטא.
we say? We have like more parts, or that our soul is compounded of different things than the animal.
Mhm.
We are not that much different from
Not that
animals.
Okay.
We have a heart, we have a lung, we have limbs.
Yes, physically, yes.
Physically, but spiritually.
Mental. We're talking about the mind.
And it takes nothing away from us if we admit that there are at least some species of animals that are clever, that
Sure.
maybe have a soul.
Maybe, yes. But we learn in Rambam, so
Take something away from us.
I'm telling his point of view. For sure, there are other rabbis that would say that animals also have souls, so they also can go to Olam Haba, to spiritual world. Okay, but we learn in Rambam today. So his point of view that there is this famous four types of things that exist in this world: Tzomech, Chai, Domem, Medaber. There is a stone, for example. He doesn't change. The stone doesn't change. So this is like the basic level of existence. And then there is the next level. The trees, the flowers, they grow, they change, but they don't move like animals. They don't fly. They stick where they are. And the next level is the animals. They moving. And the next level is human. So human, it's called medaber. So he can talk, he can think. So this is the classic old understanding of this hierarchy. Maybe today science would not agree with it. Maybe, I don't know. So this is just the classic that we need to know. And within this understanding, Rambam is working. It's just a few short notice that I said. It's not something principal here. We're just going to discuss prophecy. So I started to talk that the mind of human differs in a way from the mind, if the animals have a mind at all, from the mind of an animal, right? And you can also see the size of brain, right? The animal have smaller brain, as far as I know.
Most of them. But look at elephants, their brains are much, much longer than ours.
Oh. But even within the human kind, we also see that there are some special people that above other, they understand more. There are more the traits of their soul. They're more like balanced, more calm, more sturdy, not spontaneous people that could kill themselves at any point, right? So there are different types of human. So I started to talk about the mind. So how the mind works. So today we're thinking in the science that the brain produces thoughts. So there are like cells in the brain, right? So the cells, we can create connections between the cells. So in this way, we create thoughts. I'm simplifying. It works something like this. So today we think that the brain creates a thought, right? So I thought something before I didn't thought about it. So it means that something changed within my brain, something physical. Between neurons, right? There is a neurons, and we could create the connections between the neurons, so we could get smarter, but also we could destroy the connections. For example, when we drink alcohol, so the connections is destroyed, so we getting less smart, right? But Rambam doesn't understand it that way. He understands that there is some source of wise, of knowledge that exists maybe in spiritual world, that we could connect to this source if we work on our soul, if we purify our soul, that after it we could connect to this source in a more established connection and get more information. So the information is existed not within the person but outside, and the person could pure his mind, pure his soul, and get closer to the source of knowledge, which is God, most likely, as far as I understand. It's very short here. So there is a sechel haenoshi, the mind of the person, but also there is a sechel hapoel, another mind. ונעצר ממנו אצילות. So this, maybe you heard about Atzilut in Hasidic teaching. So I could connect to this source of knowledge, and today we say I download wisdom. ואלה הם הנביאים. So these persons that connect to this mind outside of us, and they get wisdom, knowledge, information from this mind outside of us. This is the prophets. So he explains how he understands the prophecy, right? וזו הענווה, and this is the prophecy. וזהו עניינה, and this is the definition. וביאור יסוד זה על ביאורו יארך מאוד. And to explain it with a lot of details, in precise, it's very long. ואין כוונתנו להביא מופת על כל יסוד מהם. So Rambam writes here that we doesn't want to prove every point here. When we're talking about 13 principles, he doesn't have an intention to prove every principle. He's just writing it very briefly. וביאור מצוות השגתו לפי שזה הוא כלל החוכמה. And to explain how the prophet understands or gets wisdom, it's a wisdom in itself. So we need to write a book about it. אבל אזכרה דרך סיפור בלבד. But I will say it very briefly. ומקראי התורה מעידים על נבואת נביאים הרבה. So if we open the Torah, Tanakh, we could see that there was a lot of prophets and a lot of prophecies. So we see in the Torah that it exists, but how exactly it works, he doesn't write in his Arabic book, in the book in Arabic language, but he writes in the book in Hebrew language. So we will learn a little bit from it. Okay. So I opened Mishneh Torah, Foundations of Torah. This is the first halachot that he have, and he describes some basics like the God exists, and he proves that God really exists, and what is God, and that we need to love God, to fear from God, and things like this. And also he writes here in chapter 7 about the prophecy. So he explains what is prophecy and who is prophet in more detailed way. It's very interesting. So one of the core things in the religion that we need to know is the God could give a prophecy to the human. So who could accept the prophecy? Only the person which is very wise man, gibor b'minutav, and the traits of his soul are very strong. So his instincts are not stronger than him, but he is stronger than his instincts. In any case, but this person is overcoming his instincts with his mind every time. So he's a champion. And his mind is very big and profound. And if we take the person like it, and he is also shalem physically, without any illness, sickness, כשייכנס לפרדס, so when this person learned Pardes, Pardes in Rambam teaching is physics and metaphysics, וימשך באותן העניינים הגדולים הרחוקים, and he learned it for a long time. It means that the person understands how this world works and how the spiritual world works, ותהיה לו דעה נכונה להבין ולהשיג, והוא מתקדש והולך ופורש מדרכי הכלל, so he is very unique. והולך מזרר עצמו, מלמד נפשו, שלא תהיה מחשבה כלל באחד מהדברים הבדלים. So this person, he is only, the only interest that he have is in important things and not in דברים בטלים, in something that is not important, like the person wants to buy a big house or a fancy car, things like this. So this person doesn't concerned about it. ולא מעברי הזמן ותחבולותיו. It's like what Kohelet says, הבל הבלים. So things that are coming and going and they doesn't have value with themselves. אלא דעתו פנויה תמיד למעלה. So this person is thinking what is above this world. קשורה תחת הכיסא, להבין באותן הצורות הקדושות הנהדרות. So he's thinking about the spiritual world and the angels. הוא מסתכל בחוכמתו של הקדוש ברוך הוא, כל המצורה הראשונה עד טבור הארץ. And this person is interested in the wisdom of God. ויודע מהן גודלו, and he understands that God is great. So then, רוח הקודש שורה עליו. This is very important term, רוח הקודש. You hear about it?
Yeah.
So, and then, מיד. Immediately, this spirit of God, שורה עליו, comes upon him. So this is the step between the regular life and the prophecy. So this is the step in between, רוח הקודש, right? So after it, ובעת שתנוח עליו הרוח, מתערב נפשו במעלות המלאכים הנקראים אישים. So when the person receives this רוח הקודש, he is like the angels, ויהפך לאיש אחר, and he is different person now, and he understands with his mind שאין כמות שהיה אלא שנתעלה על מעלת שאר בני אדם האחרים. And then he understands that he is not like the regular person, but he is more wise than any other wise man, like it said in Shaul, והתנבאת עמם ונהפכת לאיש אחר. It says about the prophet that after the prophecy he became the other person. You wanted to ask something?
Yeah, I would like to know if you have any explanation in Parasha Balak, what we read
Oh,
recently.
Balak, yes.
We have the going prophet Balaam,
Mhm.
and he was motivated by physical things.
He was?
Motivated
Motivated.
by fortune. The king Balak came to him and I said, I pay you.
So he wanted a service, yes.
Yes, exactly. This explanation was that the prophet isn't not.
Not usual, very
Yeah.
wise.
Yes.
Mhm.
Do
So,
you have any idea how to?
so you see this as a contradiction, I
No,
feel.
not really. It's just a question.
So
There has to
here-
be explanation.
Rambam doesn't say that the prophets should be Jewish, right? He's saying Adam, Chacham. So
But
if
is Adam not for a special type of? It's not a general. It's not for special people.
no. So you just quoted the
Because there are
Bereshit.
many words for
Adam.
human.
So when the God created Adam, so Adam is not only Jewish, so he created every human being, and after Abraham, there was a Jewish and different stories. So there is Adam. Adam is every person, right?
Or if you're thinking in the prophet Jonah,
Jonah.
he was concerned about his physics because he wanted to go to the.
He was concerned about.
He was concerned about himself, about his physics, because he don't want to go to the city and tell them you're going to be destroyed, because he knows that God wouldn't destroy them, and then he would be a false prophet, and then they would kill him.
So it is risky profession.
Yes. So he was also concerned about physical things. himself.
So you're asking on this rule.
Maybe.
Okay, so there is a theory and there is practice. So we just started theory. We need to continue. It's important questions. So this was Alacha Aleph. Oh, hot water. Hanavim Malot Malodhem. So in Alacha Bet, Rambam says that there is several levels of prophecy. Like in the wisdom, we have a more wise person and less wise person. It's not binary. It is or it is not. Амоди, иди к нам, мы почитаем. Хочешь водичку? Пить? Мама сейчас придет. Сейчас придет. Она принесет стаканчики. Хочешь пить? Пойдем в телевизор. Пойдешь к папе? Сейчас мама скоро придет. Смотри, а кто это? Это Люба? Что? We have also a question in the chat. Она думает, ты ушла. Вот, ты пришла. Возьми, пожалуйста, ее. What has the prophecy to do with the consciousness of animals? No. About the animals, we discussed that the prophecy is, I said that the prophecy is possible only to human, because humans have self-consciousness, which animals doesn't have. Maybe they have consciousness, but not self-consciousness. This was my point, and Winfried not exactly agree with it. I'm just wondering.
The mirror test.
Which test?
Mirror test.
Mirror test.
There are some kind of animals that do not recognize that a mirror image is themselves, but there are animals that
Understand it.
understand that the mirror image are themselves. So not all animals are equal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mirror test.
Mirror – это шпигель.
Ну, я говорю, что зеркало Гизелла есть.
It's famous test. I'm not familiar with it. So we're talking about the levels of prophets. Like there is a specialist in some science, and there is more qualified specialist and less qualified. In this way, it's also the prophecy works. So there is a prophet more on more serious level and the starting level of prophet. So, but there is a common thing about prophecy, that in order to see the prophecy, we need to be in Chalom, in the dream, and at night. Or at middle day, but we need to fall asleep. And he quotes the book of Bamidbar. We learned it recently. This is in the end of Parashat Be'alotcha. Here. So it's also important question that important thing that we want. From one hand, we want to be closer to God, but from the other hand, we cannot be too close to God because it's dangerous. And for example, if we know this story with Moshe, when he wanted to see the God, but God said, "Lo yir'ani ha'adam v'chai." The person could not see the God and stay alive. So if person sees God, he is dying. This axiom we see in Tanakh in different places. So I'm explaining that's why Navi, prophet that wants to see some vision from God. He cannot see it directly. He needs to fall asleep. And so this is the main thing. He needs to fall asleep. So it's about consciousness, but also the consciousness should be lowered, because on full consciousness, if you contact with God, it's not safe, it's dangerous. וכולן שמתנבאים והם מזדעזעים וכוח הגוף קשה ושתניהם מתרחפות ותשהר הדעת פנויה להבין מה שתראה. So he describes the experience of prophecy. He says that the person, when he receives prophecy, his parts of the body is moving, and the body becomes weak, and his mind is cleared in order to understand what he is seeing. כמו שנאמר באברהם, like it said about Abraham, והנה אימה חשיכה גדולה נופלת עליו. אימה, it's fear, big fear and big darkness fall upon Abraham. And also about Daniel it said, והודי נהפך עלי למשחית ולא עצרתי כוח. So he says that there are levels of prophecy. It will be important later when he will talk about the prophecy of Moses, because the Torah we received from Moshe Rabbeinu, Chumash, 5 חומשי תורה, 5 books of Moses, and it's very important. הדברים שמודיעים לנביא במראה הנבואה דרך משל מודיעים אותו לא. So how the prophet receives prophecy, he doesn't receive it like a scientific text, like explanation, profound, but mashal, it's like a metaphor. He receives a metaphor, but metaphor is usually an direct way to telling something, right? So I could say, for example, that it is empty like a cup. If I have an empty cup, or if I have a full bottle, I could say it's full of something like a full bottle. So
like the prophecy Joseph received, like the oxes, the 12, which represented the years, they are full and
yes, Joseph with the brothers,
and they are wealthy, and then they like
the Pharaoh.
Yeah.
So the Pharaoh.
This
so
way,
so
he
the,
was interpreting, because Pharaoh was dreaming, and he didn't have an answer how to explain it.
This is a good example. So first we start with the dreams of Joseph. He saw his brothers bowing before him, but this is the explanation of metaphor, and the metaphor that he saw was with the stars, right? So there is the sun, and sun surrounded by the stars. So there is the dream, the sun with the stars. It is a prophecy, but when the prophet accepts a prophecy, in addition to that, he accepts the explanation of this metaphor, right? Like Joseph, the stars that surrounds the sun, it's his brothers that would bow before him in the future. So this is the prophecy and the explanation. מודיעים לו ומיד יחקק בלבו פתרון המשל במראה הנבואה וידע מהו. And the prophet understands what's the meaning of the metaphor. כמו הסולם, he brought another example, סולם שראה יעקב אבינו המלאכים עולים ויורדים בו. Yaakov, when he fall asleep in a certain place, he saw stairs with the angels that come in, going up, going down. So what's the meaning behind it? והוא היה משל למלכויות ושעבודן. So it's about the different empires that are gaining power and losing power. So he also accepted both the metaphor and the explanation. וכמו החיות שראה יחזקאל והסיר הנפוח, Rambam brought here a series of examples. ומקל שקל שראה ירמיהו, ומגילה שראה יחזקאל ויפה שראה יחזקאל. וכן שאר הנביאים. So there is a lot of things like this in the prophecy, in the different prophets, in the different books of prophets in the Tanakh. מהן אומרים למשל בתיכונו כמו אלה. So some prophets, they receive and say in both metaphor and an explanation, but ויש מהם שאומרים הפתרון בלבד. Sometimes prophets says only the explanation and skips the part of metaphor, או פעמים אומרים המשל בלבד. So the example that you said, Yosef, was about the Pharaoh. So Pharaoh, he received only the metaphor about the 7 cows, that 7 cows eat other 7 cows, you know this? So it was a metaphor, but Pharaoh doesn't understand what it means. So he was looking for a specialist that could explain this metaphor. So this is an example of prophecy without an explanation. Yes, you wanted to say something also?
Yeah, you said what is written in the Tanakh. The Tanakh is like Torah,
Nevi'im, Ketuvim. Yes.
And why we put the book of Daniel in Ketuvim? Because most use them that he's prophetic, because he's also interpreting the dreams. And yes.
It's about the timing, I think, because he lived later, not in the times of the first temple, but second temple, I guess. I need to check the times. I think it's about the timing, because in Ketuvim, for example, we have Megillat Esther, which is a very late book, and the book of Divrei Hayamim, which is kind of the repetition from the whole story. So in Ketuvim is later books, additional. It's a good question, big topic to understand the structure of Tanakh. Maybe we'll learn it some other day. So it's Halacha Bet and Halacha Gimel. So we learned that there is several levels of prophecy, of prophets, and also we learned that the prophecy works like a metaphor and an explanation of metaphor. And the next halacha is about when a prophet could receive a prophecy. So the prophet doesn't receive the prophecy whatever he wants. But how it works? The prophet should prepare himself and wait. And he needs to wait in a good mood, not in depression. And he needs to be alone. I think it's about the concentration, not to be distracted. Because if the person is sad or bored, he cannot receive prophecy. He should be in a good mood. So how technically the prophet could achieve a good mood? With the help of music, right? So the person that wanted to become a prophet, or when he was studying prophecy, he worked in a way that in front of him there was different musical instruments, Nevel, Tov, Khalil, Kinor. Rambam brings 4 examples of musical instruments. We could go to Jerusalem, to the Museum of Tanakh, and they could explain to us which musical instrument is exactly how it looks. So I'm not guaranteeing the translation here, and they translate it harp, drum, flute, and lyre. Okay. So after the person wants to receive prophecy, he listens to music to be in good mood, and then he waits. Maybe he will accept prophecy. וזה שנאמר והם מתנבאים, כלומר מהלכים בדרך הנבואה עד שנבואו כמו שאתה אומר פלוני מתגדל. And in the book of Shmuel, he found a verb mitnabim. It means, he explains it, that the person acting like a prophet in order to receive a prophecy. It means working on his concentration, on his state of mind, mindset. And after it, he could receive a prophecy. So he explains the terms. So there is a person that wants to receive a prophecy, and the name for this person is בן נביא, בני נביאים. ואף על פי שמכוונים דעתם, so also the word ben, it means child, like a boy, the son of someone else, but also in second meaning, we could call a student of someone also ben. So here, Bnei Nevi'im is the students of prophets that also wants to become a prophet. It's like there is a master and there is a student. ואף על פי שהם מכוונים דעתם, and these students, even that them, they preparing themselves, but it's not guaranteed that they would accept prophecy. אפשר שתשרה עליהם שכינה. It's possible that Shekhinah is like Ruach HaKodesh, divine spirit, divine presence, divine spirit, the spirit of God would rest upon them, but also it's possible that they would not receive any prophecy. So it's not a technique that works every time, it's just the preparation that you could do, and then you just wait and hope. Okay, so in Halacha 6, he talks about the prophecy of Moshe, which we'll discuss a little later. And the last halacha in this parak is halacha 7. So the question is, the person that receives prophecy, is he receiving it for himself or for some other person? הנביא אפשר שתהיה נאמתו לעצמו בלבד, להרחיב ליבו, להוסיף דעתו, עד שידע מה שלא ידע, מה שלא היודע מאותם דברים הגדולים. Theoretically, it could be that prophet receives prophecy only for himself, to add the wisdom, to add knowledge, and to understand things that he didn't understand before. ואפשר, but also there is a possibility שישלח לעם מעמי הארץ, that he sent to other people, או לאנשי העיר, for example, to people that live in his city, או ממלכה, לכונן אותם, or he is sent to other, to the country, to his country, לכונן אותם להודיעם, to prepare them and to tell them מה יעשו, what they need to do, או להימנע ממעשים הרעים שבידיהם, or to prevent them from doing something bad that they are doing. וכשמשלחים אותו נותנים לו אות ומופת. So this is very important. How can we know that the person is a prophet and not just a regular person, that is not a shliach, not a messenger from God? So we need a sign, right? אות ומופת, כדי שידעו העם שהאל שלחו באמת. So in order to prove to people, which is the audience of the prophet, in order to prove to people that he is a prophet indeed, he needs a sign. ולא כל העושה אות ומופת מאמינים לו שהוא נביא. But the sign is not really a proof, because also we could find persons that works in circus, for example. They do some tricks and signs, and they are not prophets, right? So the sign is not a proof. אלא אדם שהיינו יודעים בו מתחילתו שהוא הראוי לנבואה בחוכמתו ומעשיו שנטלה בהם על כל בני גילו. But if we know some person that he is special and he is very wise and והיה מהלך בדרכי הנבואה, and he was doing these techniques of preparation for the prophecy, במעשיו ואחר כך בא ועשה עוד, and after it he did this sign, ואמר שהאל שלחו, and this person said that God sent him, מצווה לשמוע ממנו. We have a commandment that we need to listen to this person. It's in the book דברים, אליו תשמעון. You can open it. נביא מקרבך מאחיך כמוני, יקים לך השם אלוהיך, אליו תשמעון. ואפשר שיעשה אות ומופת ואינו נביא, but also, it is a possibility that this person could do a sign, but he is not a prophet. He was preparing for prophecy, and after it, he did this sign, but it's not a proof that he is a prophet. וזה האות יש לו בדברים בגו. But this sign tells us something. It's not a proof, but it's a hint, maybe. ואף על פי כן מצווה לשמור לו. And even then, even that the sign is not 100% proof, still we have a commandment to listen to this prophet. Why? הואיל ואדם גדול וחכם וראוי לנבואה הוא, מעמידים אותו על חזקתו. This is very important, because this person is very special and wise, and he is, it's possible that he would accept the prophecy. מעמידים אותו על חזקתו. So it's called חזקה. So if the person could receive prophecy and he have the sign, so it tells us that most likely he is a prophet. So it says chazaka. This term chazaka in halacha, it's very important term. Chazaka means that we assuming about some status, right? Could we? Rambam gives another example of chazaka. שבכך נצטווינו, כמו שנצטווינו לחתוך הדין על פי שני עדים. Other example where we could see chazaka works, it's about how the Beit Din work. In Beit Din, for example, we have 3 people here. So you two could be witnesses, and you could go to Beit Din and say that I did something. And Beit Din believe in your words because you two witnesses, and Beit Din could say, based on your, for example, I borrowed money from someone, so I need to bring the money back. So you are the witnesses, right? So you tell the rabbis at the Beit Din, so Beit Din, they saying to me, I need to give the money back. But how the Beit Din know that I actually borrowed the money? Only because you said to the Beit Din. But how can we know that you're telling the truth? Maybe you're not telling the truth. So it's interesting how it works. But it is possible that witnesses could tell lies in the Beit Din, right? But since we know that these persons, these witnesses are ksherim, they are honorable, civilized citizens, that we could rely on them. It's called ksherim. מעמידים אותם על כשרותם. So most likely they are telling the truth. So it's not a 100% proof. It's also called chazaka. Most likely they are telling the truth. So in a lot of questions we see in halacha that we could rely on chazaka. We don't need scientific style proof 100%, but it's enough to have this proof. We could also another example we could give about chazaka, about mikvah. So, for example, in mikvah there is a required amount of water in order to be kasher. So usually it's woman that goes to mikvah, and for example, we checked that there is enough water in the mikveh, and people are going in, going out, going in, going out. But at some point, they took some water, right? Every person took some water from the mikveh. So at some point, there's not enough water in the mikveh. We seen it now, but from the first check that it was kasher, and to the last check that it's not kasher, there was, for example, 100 persons that used this mikveh. So the question is, these 100 persons that used the mikveh, they performed a mitzvah of immersion or not? Because a month ago it was enough water, but now months later we see that there is not enough water. So do we need to say to this woman, to every 100 women, that they need to immerse again in full mikvah, or how can we manage this question? So also chazaka works here. So, for example, there was a woman number 100. So after her, we see that there is not enough water. It means that her immersion is not kosher. She needs to do it again. But all the other 99 women that immersed before, it is kosher because we have this chazaka. So after the first check, every woman that goes to mikveh, we don't need to check every time, I guess, because we have this chazaka. So if the previous person immersed and it was enough water, so I'm the second person, I could go immerse also because it didn't change anything, right? So it's called chazaka. A little bit, tiny drop of water. So it works. It's called chazaka. So the status, when we have the status of something, we can rely on this status. So we almost finished this seventh chapter of Foundations of Torah. Rambam ends with two quotes from Chumash. ובדברים אלה וכיוצא בהן נאמר, הנסתרות להשם אלוהינו, הנגלות לנו ולבנינו. So what is hidden, only God knows, and we know what we could see. So the human mind is limited, and we could not know everything. So when we are performing halacha, it's very important to understand that we don't need to be scientifically 100% precise. We just acting like people acting more or less, and we can rely on chazaka, on the status of things. It's very important. ונאמר כי האדם יראה לעיניים והשם יראה ללבב. And the second quote is from the book of Shmuel. So it compares also God and human. So the human could only see with his eyes. It means we can see the surface. For example, I don't see how many water inside. I can see only from the outside. But God could see the things inside. So he knows better. And our capabilities of understanding is very limited, right?
It's growing.
Huh?
It is growing.
We can grow, yes.
X-ray machines, this telescope.
Yes.
That's all.
So it's very important topic in halacha field when we have new possibilities. Does it obligate us to use it or not? For example, about tolaim. How do I say tolaim? So, for example, if there is a bee, Biene in German, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm not allowed to eat the bee. So insects. So, for example, there are smaller insects that could come to my food. So it's the question, it is forbidden to eat the food with the insects or it's permitted. So in halacha we have law, for example, if I have an apple and an insect within the apple. So if I eat the apple, it's not a problem if I eat also the insect which is within the apple, because it's the part of an apple, right? So I don't need to open and put it away, because I don't know if it is inside. And if it is inside, so it's like the part of an apple, right? So I'm eating an apple. My kavana is to eat the apple, but maybe I eating also someone inside. I don't know. So it's okay.
Or
Yes.
isn't it like shogeg?
Shogeg?
Yeah. So I'm doing
It's interesting.
something, and I don't know that I'm doing wrong because, or what is the other secret shah? I'm doing something what is allowed, but by doing this, I'm doing something prohibited. Like on Shabbos, I'm opening the fridge. Opening is allowed on Shabbos. There's nothing what is saying you can't open something, but by opening, the light is turning on, and this is prohibited, and then there's a term for this.
Yes, it's very big topic about Shabbat.
No, but the principle would be like the same. Eating is okay, but what I'm eating, I'm doing something forbidden, and then, well, I don't know the.
So this is the question: what is forbidden? That's what I'm discussing now. So you're talking more about Shabbat. So in Shabbat, kavanah is more important than usual. There is a shogeg mizigd and also eino mitkaven and also mitaseg, a lot of terms. So here, yes. So we have a lot of questions in chat. Okay, we just. It was just examples of chazaka. What is chazaka? So if I have an apple and there is a chance that there is an insect inside. So the question is, what is how high should be the chance that I am obligated to check it? So this is very big question in halacha. So if I guessing that there is a high chance that there is someone inside. I need to check, but what is we need to understand and which is the exact chance that obligated us to check. It's a very big topic. So basic law is that the insect within the fruit is permitted. We can eat the fruit with the insect. Maybe today we are not acting like it, but it's a classic halacha. So I just started to talk about it because now we have kinds of magnifying glass. So if we look at the fruit, we don't see any insect. But if we look in magnifying glass, we could see the insect. So the question is, can I eat this fruit now? Because I don't see it, but some scientists tell my friend, and my friend told me that actually there is an insect here. So can I eat it? This big question. Aloha. What do you think?
If it's macroscopic, if there's a worm in it,
Microscope, yes.
no, macroscopic. It is a worm does not come out of nowhere. Usually it goes a hole, and
It lives within the hole.
You can see
The hole.
the hole,
Ah.
and then there is a worm inside it. And if you go to the supermarket, there are no worms.
Oh.
They use a lot of poison and
Yes.
never any worms. But if you go to an apple tree,
Yeah, we have an apple tree.
depending on circumstances, 20 to 80% of the apples contain a worm.
Oh.
And the worms go into best apples usually.
Because they're more tasty.
So if you want a tasty apple, look for one with a worm.
And cool it off.
Draw your knife, cut out the worm, and enjoy there.
And what's the size of the hole of the worm? How many millimeters?
You just see it. It has a different color.
The color changed because it's a wound in the nipple. Mm-hmm.
And about the microscope,
Yes.
if you suspect that some food might contain bad bacteria,
Mm-hmm.
it might be worth examining with a microscope whether this bacterium is there.
So it's advanced level.
And
Mm-hmm.
in our slaughterhouses, the meat is inspected whether there are parasites in it.
Mm-hmm.
And if there are, the meat has to be discarded. The rich persons in ancient Egypt, the pharaohs, they were mummified, and when they were inspected later on, they contained plenty of parasites.
Yeah, sure.
And here we are much more safer in our food
Yes.
than the rich pharaohs. Just looking in microscope to inspect food might be worth effort.
Okay. So we go.
Not every apple, but
going back to the topic of prophecy, why we learn in the time of 3 weeks of sudden from prophecy, and how many prophets we have in Judaism, and who is able to become a prophet. So we just learned in Rambam who is able to become a prophet. The person should work on his soul, to purify his soul, to work with his instincts, that he would overcome his instincts to do the right thing and not have any situation that his instincts would overcome upon him and tell him what to do. This is one of the preparations for the prophecy. How many prophets we have? I didn't count them. So you can open the book of prophets. So there is like a big prophets that have his own books, but also there was a lot of not that famous prophets that doesn't have their own books, but in the other books there are stories about them. I don't know, hundreds, thousands. I didn't count them.
I learned that there were many more prophets.
Yeah, sure.
But in the Tanakh, they're just the relevance were prophesied for the nation of Israel.
Yes, you're right.
And there were many prophets of that time, and they were like talking about their villages or kingdoms or whatever, but it wasn't for the whole.
Makes sense. Also, we learned sometimes prophet receives prophecy for himself and not for some other people. So we don't have this documented because it's not for everyone. Also, this is the interesting question: at what time the prophecy stops? So we learned that in order to receive prophecy, we need to be in good mood, simcha. So now we don't have the temple back there when we had the temple in Jerusalem. So so the nation was united, and we have very bright presence and bright future. So people were in better situation than now. I think it has to do with the unity. So now we don't have the temple in Jerusalem, and a lot of the nation are not living in Israel, separated. So this separation makes us that we don't feel this unity, and therefore we don't have this uplifting spirit that we had before. So now we don't have. So Rambam doesn't say that we don't have prophecy now, actually.
I think we have plenty of. They just do not wear badges.
Oh.
Prophet.
Yes, this is.
Wasn't Malachi the last?
We need to check it. I don't know. So we just learned Rambam. He didn't mention that prophecy stopped, I think. He said that we could prepare ourselves, and then we could receive prophecy, but also we could receive it, could not receive it. So it depends on something. I guess in today's world, maybe it's harder with the Yetzer Hara, I don't know, because there are very strong advertising machines. You need to buy this, you need to do this to obtain it, to try it. Maybe it's harder in our world today. I don't know. Has Chazakah something to do with strange? Yes, it comes from Chazak. I think so, yes. So we couldn't be sure about something, so I'm saying Chazak. Also, when we ending to read one of the books in Chumash, we're saying Chazak, Chazak, Venit Chazak. So it's just like Kol HaKavod, or like Mazel Tov, or Yashar Koch, we're saying Yashar Koch. So there are a lot of expressions to say that this fact is true, or this person is doing the right thing. So Chazak, Chazakah is about right. This is right. Okay, about the fruit is very big topic. Today, Halacha, yes, we need to check, because we, in Hebrew there is a word Hosheshim. Hosheshim is like afraid, not exactly afraid, but we suspect, yes. We suspect that there is someone within the fruit. So usually we need to open it and check if there is someone inside the insect, and then we could eat. But also we could and we should use statistics. So it depends on the manufacturer of the fruits, because there are cheaper brands and more expensive brands. So in more expensive brands, the fruits are cleaner and the probability of finding insects are less. And in cheaper, it's a little higher. It depends also on the country, sure. In Germany, everything is clear here. I'm not used to it. Okay, so we learned this 6 principle of faith. I think it's very important to consider it, and we need to learn more Tanakh, more books of prophets, because today's Judaism, I feel, is very lacking this spirit of prophecy, something supernatural, because we need to put everything in book, and each situation have its own law. So everything is in the shape of square. So we need to remember that initially when we received Torah, it was the prophecy, it was something supernatural. So the Torah that we have is something supernatural, right? It's not something boring. It's very interesting and fascinating. So next time we would learn about the prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu. It's the 7th, so next week. And tomorrow we will have the Hebrew class, also here. And the word that we will learn is the word Israel. And people, I guess, don't think what it means actually, right? So we will learn it tomorrow. Thank you for your time. See you later. And stream.